My name's Adil Alam and I'm from Newcastle, England in the UK. Join me on this 4-part documentary in Bangladesh as I stay in the village during monsoon season and experience a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm going to build a boat from scratch. Well, not me personally, but I will be documenting the two most skilled carpenters I have ever seen as they craft a boat to perfection using only their bare hands and zero power tools. With only basic tools, I'll show you the old school boat building method which has been passed down for centuries over many generations in a small village known as Carpenter's Alley. I'll also be taking you to the craziest wood market you have ever seen in your life. We are now entering monsoon season and soon India will release their floodgates. The mountain range you can see on the horizon is the Bangladesh-India border. I was always under the impression the country flooded from heavy rainfall, but the majority of the water in actual fact comes from India when they open their floodgates. Once the land has flooded, the only way to travel is by boat. So this year, I decided to get the full experience by not only documenting the floods, but also building a boat to venture out on for the upcoming fishing season. Before we get to that though, allow me to show you the changes Bangladesh can expect as the monsoon weather progresses. Agriculture is the most important sector of the Bangladesh economy, and naturally when the land floods, a lot of the farmers can only wait till the floodwaters recede to commence with their next harvest. For more information, see the link in the description below to my documentary on the annual harvest. Bangladesh is a tropical country and well known for its endless exotic fruits. You can expect to see all sorts grown, including mangoes, guavas, jackfruit, nashi pears, pineapples, bananas, apples, berries and so much more. We ourselves have many of those fruits I just named growing on our own trees on the family compound. All fruit-bearing trees will have produced ripe fruit 1 month into monsoon season, except for bananas and pineapples which grow all year round. Children are taught great caution and subjected to several changes during the monsoon season. It is crucial that all children learn to swim from a young age, as it is very common for young kids to fall into the water unnoticed from banks and bamboo bridges. Also, they will now have to start going to school every day by boat. They will now have limited space where they can play games and sports and can no longer take strolls to the market for sweets, cold drinks and ice cream. This is the beginning of the rainy month, better known as the month of Boishak. This heavy rainfall will only add to the water India release, hence increasing the overall floodwater levels. The villagers can expect fierce storms during this month and all the ground around them to turn extremely muddy. Say hello to my puppy Vito, who is a 7-month-old Doberman Pinscher. Unfortunately for Vito, monsoon season means staying indoors a lot more. This is because there is virtually no land to walk him on and we wouldn't want him bringing in muddy paws all the time. The flooding also affects our cows, who would usually graze out in the fields during the daytime. However, during monsoon season, they will stay at the compound and feed from the haystack we built, shown in my rice harvest documentary. As mentioned before, most of the agricultural work grinds to a halt during the flooded months. The majority of farmers will harvest rice, which is commonly done on low-lying floodplains and paddy fields. However, as the water rises, these plains and fields will go under at least 10 feet of water, rendering them useless to the farmers. These floods will usually recede and be gone within 6 months of the monsoon season beginning. This leaves the farmers a limited time to grow and harvest their crops, and this is ultimately the reason why they have to depend on an annual harvest to provide for their families for 12 months at a time. One great benefit from the monsoon floods is that fishing season occurs, and in these times, the extremely poor villagers all across Bangladesh can catch fish to feed their families. Fishing is another big trade in Bangladesh, as anybody can go out onto the waters to fish, assuming they have the skills to catch them. This is partially the reason I will be building this boat, so I too can join in during the fishing season and see or experience one of the dozens of methods used by the villagers, many of them unheard of in the UK. Bangladesh has a complex network of 230 rivers. 3 of those are huge: the Meghna, the Brahmaputra, and the Ganges, or Padma as it is known in Bangladesh, which begin in India, run through Bangladesh, and eventually empty into the Bay of Bengal. It is during the months of June to October that they will overflow and flood the entire country. All of these fields that you are seeing here will soon be completely submerged under the water. These river systems carry 1.5 billion tonnes of fertile silt through the country annually, forming the foundation for much of the nation's agriculture. For the next week, I will be going to another village to stay with some relatives, and when I come back, I've been told to expect some changes on the water levels. But before I get to that, let's take a quick look at present visible changes already happening as we travel to my relative's village on a motorbike. And so the journey begins, and immediately I can see some big changes already. All the flooded areas you are seeing now were a lush green colour, flourishing with crops and rice harvests just over a month ago. All the broken roads which lead from villages to the towns and cities will go under water and be inaccessible to drive on. However, the main roads connecting cities are on higher ground and will not flood over. Even now, this 8-kilometre broken village road leading to our nearest town is flooding over in some sections. To get a better understanding of how much water is covering the land, normally when we get onto this bridge, you can see green plains as far as the eye can see. Yet at this time of year, the vast majority of the land surface glistens under the sun as it is mainly covered with water, which will continue to creep further inland and rise drastically after heavy rainfall. Town and city markets will remain unaffected. Bridges are a whole topic of their own, so I have now decided to make a video in the future on the darker truths behind Bengali bridges. I am nearly at my relatives now and can't help but wonder what the land will look like in a week's time when I return back to the compound in my mum's village. As the floodwaters rise and creep inwards, it will have a huge effect on wildlife in forested areas. As the water on the surface of the land increases, all the wild animals will be forced inland and be crammed onto whatever dry ground remains. Foxes are one of the more noticeable wild animals which will be affected by the floods. Once the waters have fully risen, foxes will live closer to the villagers' huts until the water goes down. This creates problems for the villagers who keep animals such as chickens on their compound, not to mention the constant howling of these foxes all throughout the night. They are aggressive towards stray dogs and will roam around in groups. It's time to head back home now, and we're back on the 8-kilometre broken road that leads to our village. The reason the roads are so broken is because the government never actually released any money into public funding due to corruption. As a result, roads, schools and hospitals remain in bad conditions with no hope of being fixed up anytime soon. This makes for a very uncomfortable and bumpy ride for the duration of the 8 kilometres. As we progress along the dirt road, I'm keen to reach the section which was starting to flood on the way over so I could compare the current water levels to see how much it has risen. I was soon about to find out that cars, vans, trucks, lorries and motorbikes will all be forced to stop using this road. Drivers will put their vehicles away for monsoon season, as now boats will be the only transport of choice for these waters. I was surprised to see so many boats up ahead, which indicates just how much the roads must have started flooding over in the past week. Once the water has fully risen, this entire road will be underwater. But for now, we need to cross this large drowned section of the road by ferrying on one of these boats. Once the motorbike is onto the boat, we are on our way. Remember earlier how small patches of water were forming on this back field? Take a look at it now. it is 95% flooded. The grassy bank out front is also slowly flooding over now, and you can see it rise entirely over parts 2, 3 and 4 of this documentary. Join us next time as we head to the Lishkar Bazaar, which is Bangladesh's biggest and busiest wood market, to buy some top quality wood for the cheapest prices. This market was started by the British over a century ago during their colonial rule over here, and it is still going to this day. The reason the wood is so cheap is because it is secretly smuggled across the Indian border for lower rates than usual. But more about that in part 2 of this documentary. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.